Shabbat Shalom. This week in our calendar, we are observing the holiday of Tisha B'Av. That may be a holiday that is unfamiliar to some, maybe you've heard of it, but Tisha B'Av commemorates the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem. Now, we're not sure exactly about the dates of those tragedies in history, but we pile on a lot of bad things that happened in our history on Tisha B'Av, and there's this tendency to kind of associate anything tragic or any calamity that happened to our people on Tisha B'Av, and it's, if you think about it, it's a pretty Jewish thing to do, right? Just let's get it over with on Tisha B'Av. But traditionally, there are some things that happen on Tisha B'Av, and you can think of it as a mini Yom Kippur. So it's a major fast day for some. It's really a communal day of mourning. We don't wear leather, and we don't engage in luxuries, and we abstain from other things that any other day of the year may be pleasureful. We also chant the book of Eicha, or Lamentations, which has its own trope. We're used to hearing Haftarah trope or Torah trope, but the book of Eicha has its own melodies that evoke the sadness and somberness of the day of Tisha B'Av. The opening verses of Eicha set the stage for this commemoration in our calendar. Eicha, how or why, it asks, do bad things happen? There's an image of a desolate, lonely, empty city, which we're all very familiar with given the pandemic. Over the last few years and over our lifetime, we all ask how and why. Maybe we've asked ourselves, why is this happening? Why can't I hug my loved ones, my family? How can I spend one more minute on a Zoom meeting, right? But this kind of questioning happens every day, this how and why. So this holiday, Tisha B'Av, that isn't usually observed by Reform Jews, what does it mean for us? What do we glean from it? So I'd like to offer that Tisha B'Av gives us the opportunity to acknowledge that we, people we know and people we don't know, are experiencing this kind of existential questioning every day. Whether or not we're aware of it, sadness and grief happen all the time. Maybe we know someone walking that path, and maybe we don't. But my question is, what would happen if we treated every person that we come into contact with, strangers and friends, with gentleness and the sensitivity and kindness as if they were enduring their own Tisha B'Av? We're taught, maybe as children, not to judge a book by its cover. And if we recognize that maybe we're not always privy to what's going on beneath the surface for some, we begin to treat people differently. It actually says in Pirkei Avot that we should greet everyone, we should meet everyone with a pleasant demeanor, a pleasant face, it says. When my brother and I were little and we would be sitting in the back seat of the car and there would be someone driving crazy in front of us, my mom would turn to us and say, they must have a sick child at home, because you just never really know what's going on. So even though Tisha B'Av gives us this one opportunity to observe this day of sadness and grief, the experience happens every day. Shared experiences of grief and sadness, we've been all through that in the last few years. So what can we do on Tisha B'Av that's meaningful to us? Maybe we could go visit a loved one in the cemetery. Maybe we could just reflect on the memories and the stories we have of people who have passed. Or maybe we can just pick up the phone and call a friend who's going through a difficult time. So while we may not be taking the day of Tisha B'Av to fast, we may continue wearing our summer leather sandals, I do encourage each of us to find a moment this week during Tisha B'Av to honor the gravity of the day, however that means is comfortable and meaningful for you. Shabbat Shalom.